Hi, this is Scott, Kilo Sierra 6 Delta Alpha Yankee, and for today's video, this is another COMSEC Practices video, but because I have some gear that I want to show you and have you be able to look at what I'm doing with this, I wanted to bring it inside for this particular video and do this stuff on the table. So what we're going to talk about today is controlling your audio output from your radio. So we're not talking about putting a signal out and avoiding detection. We're not talking about other people being able to monitor what you're saying or transmitting over your radio from another radio. Instead, what we're talking about here is eliminating the ability for people around you to hear the traffic that's coming in over your radio. Now, if you're the kind of person who just raw dogs a radio on a plate carrier, in other words, you run it just like this with nothing attached to it, you clip it to your kit, get the radio volume cranked up so you can hear it, and you're good to go. Well, the problem is anyone around you can also hear every bit of audio coming through that radio just as well as you can. And that's a very poor approach to take. Now, if you're if you're surrounded by friends and allies, it may not necessarily be an issue. But also, if you're the kind of person who's out doing a neighborhood patrol with that particular setup, as you're moving along and that audio traffic is coming out of that radio, everyone can hear you coming. Everybody knows where you're at. From a noise discipline standpoint, it's Bush League amateur time when I see that kind of approach used. You would be surprised how often I see it. And I'm going to do a follow-on video where I kind of roast somebody for running this type of gear, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as well as a couple of other aspects. But what I'm going to tell you is you need to be concerned about who can hear what audio is coming out of this radio, particularly if you're doing something like an enhanced neighborhood watch kind of situation where you're out actively patrolling your neighborhood, making sure that nobody's doing anything bad. And if you think, well, what kind of circumstance or situation would I do that in? Look to what's going on in Southern California right now today. They've got basically all of Los Angeles is on, there's some kind of fire or some kind of nonsense going on. Looting is out of control. People are literally patrolling their own neighborhoods, making sure that folks aren't lighting additional fires or looting the residences that have been evacuated or are in the process of being evacuated. That kind of stuff is occurring, like I said, right now. So if you're in a situation like that where you've gathered together with your like-minded individuals in your community and you're patrolling your neighborhood, if you contact somebody and someone needs to send you some pertinent information about that person you're contacting, they're going to be able to hear everything you hear if you have no way to control the audio coming out of this radio. And that's a bad thing. If you look to law enforcement, they take a lot of measures towards this. This is something that I used to do on a daily basis. When I first started with Kings County, we were issued Motorola HT90s that didn't even have speaker mics. It wasn't long before we got HT1000s and we did have speaker mics, but one of the problems we had was as we were, moving around the jails and whatnot, the inmates could hear everything coming over the radios. So they were picking up a lot of intel about how we conducted our operations, who was moving around, what they were doing, what inmates were being moved. It was a bad situation. One of the first things I did when I got into a position where I could affect a change like that was I got audio ear tube earpieces for everybody's radios so that we could control that audio that others weren't or were able to hear. So in setting up your personal kit, one of the things I always recommend is if you're going to have a radio mounted on your carrier, you need to do so in a pouch so that it's secure and the radio stays exactly where you put it on your kit. You don't run the risk of the belt clip breaking or the thing coming off completely and losing the radio. But with the radio in the pouch, the next thing I always recommend is that you run some kind of speaker mic. Now, this isn't going to control the audio, but what it is going to do is allow you to operate the radio and free up your hands, so you're not constantly having to pull the radio out of the pouch to communicate. The speaker mic is easily movable around your kit, so you can mount it in different locations to make things easier depending on whatever you happen to be doing at the time. Now, fortunately, most of these speaker mics come with some kind of accessory socket on there so that you can put some kind of an earplug or hook them up to Active Ear Pro and whatnot. And this is no different. So one of the first things I'm going to recommend, and it's fairly inexpensive, and everybody should have at least one set of these, is one of these inexpensive audio tube ear coil earpieces. And this one's been modified a little bit for this speaker mic because it uses a smaller accessory jack. It uses a 2.5 millimeter instead of the normal 3.5 on here. But I did a video where I showed how to make this modification. But the important thing to point out is that once you plug this in, let's go ahead and plug into the port at the bottom. There we are. Once you've done this, you then put this this earpiece in your ear, and when you have radio traffic come in, people that are around you in your immediate proximity cannot hear the audio that's coming in over the radio. And that is a very, very important thing. And for something that's only, I think you can get these for less than $20, it's a really quick, inexpensive solution to your problem. So this whole setup, even if you went with kind of lesser equipment, for instance, you went with a Comm Mountain speaker mic instead of this more expensive Kenwood, you're still into it for a relatively small amount of money. And again, it allows you to secure that audio so others can't hear it. Now, there's other things that you can do beyond this to get kind of a more advanced approach. You could elect, let's say you didn't want to go with a speaker mic, but you wanted to have the ability to control that audio, but be able to transmit. There are also units out there that are not speaker mics, but rather they're a microphone with a jack for either an audio ear tube connection or hooking this up to active hearing protection. And I'll be doing a review on this this Tigrit Outdoors unit here pretty shortly. I just got this in and it's kind of interesting. I like it. But another option that you could run instead of the earpiece is you could get some active ear pro involved. So this is electronic hearing protection that is commonly associated with the range, but what these do is they amplify ambient noise, but they shunt out whenever a noise of a certain threshold occurs. It shuts it down so it actually operates as hearing protection and protects your ears. But in a real noisy environment like a protest or something like that, you can actually turn that audio down just a little bit. You can control the amount of noise and distraction you're getting in from all the people hollering and whatnot, yet you can still very comfortably hear your radio traffic once you've taken and hooked up an accessory cord such as this, and you hook it up just in the same way you would hook up that audio tube piece. And now what you've got is some actual kind of upgraded hearing protection that not only protects your ears, it improves your ability to hear what's going on around you, and it allows you, once again, to discreetly listen to the radio traffic coming in over the radio, but no one else is going to hear it. You could take it a few steps further, of course, and you could go straight to grab this, a more evolved solution. You could go the full tactical headset kit route as well. It's not as scalable as the one that I just showed you working off of the speaker mic. But this here, it has a well, this isn't a U94. This is Earmore's version. I think it's called an M51. But this is a set of Earmore M32s. Very inexpensive tactical hearing protection comm system. And this is purpose-built as a comm system, but also active hearing protection. These are not the junky airsoft replicas of the Peltors that you sometimes run across that don't actually work. These things actually do work. I've tested them thoroughly, and I use them a lot. I can tell you these things actually get the job done, and they get the job done for a fairly inexpensive price. At some point, I may finally break down and spend almost $1,500 on the full kit for, a genuine set of Peltors. But to be honest with you, aside from a bit of additional noise rating and a little bit of additional maybe ruggedization, I don't really see the necessity to do that. To be honest with you, as I said, these things work pretty darn good. So I'm happy with them so far, and I've done a lot of content review on this. But this too gets the job done. But the most important aspect is, regardless of what you do or what you choose, just understand it is critically important that you shut down the audio coming out of this radio so that others around you cannot hear if it is a communications security environment. Again, I'll remind you, the intent of these videos are not necessarily for recreational radio. This is a whole different kind of animal. We're talking about using radios in situations where your use of the radio could actually have an effect on your personal security and safety. So I will bring it to a close at this point. Now I'm giving you a little bit to look at and think about. And a lot of this material has been covered elsewhere. But as with all of these subjects, I'm going to delve a little deeper into all of these little short videos that I've been doing up to this point. Sorry, this one went a little bit long, but kind of needed to lay that stuff out. So with that, I will bring it to an end. Thank you for watching and or listening. This is Scott, Kilo Sierra 6, Delta Alpha Yankee from Visalia, California. Have a wonderful day.